Here's integrated 3. This is problem 3-65, and it says it's about your water bill, and it says somebody's moving to a new city and she's looking at the rates that are charged. And so for the water bill, her family's going to use up to 1,000 cubic feet each month, and so the service rate is the monthly service charge is $12.70 per month, and the first 300 cubic feet will cost $3.90 per 100 cubic feet, or fraction thereof. So when it says or fraction thereof, that means anything from 1 cubic foot to 100 is going to still cost you, it's still going to fall into this range here. And so after the first 300 cubic feet, it's going to be more expensive. It's going to cost $5.20 for every 100 cubic feet. So this whole thing was a little confusing because they're counting by hundreds of cubic feet. I started to make a table because they want a graph, basically. So I wanted an equation because I needed it to be able to fill out my table. So I just said, well, what if I just use 100 cubic feet? How much is that going to cost me? Well, it's going to cost me $12.70 plus $3.90 per 100 cubic feet. So I said 390. So then I realized here I'm counting by hundreds, but here I'm just going to put 1 because it's for 100. Like I'm buying them in groups of 100, I guess, like the cubic feet of water. So it'd be 3.9 for that 100 cubic feet. So that's $3.90 plus $12.70, and that gave me $16.60. And then I did it a couple more times. I plugged the 2 in, and then I realized we're just going to be adding $3.90 each time, at least for the first 3 times. But then after the 300th cubic foot, then I have to start using these other numbers. It says after 300 cubic feet. So when I try to do my 400, I can't plug it in up here because it costs more now. It's $5.20 per cubic foot now. So what I didn't realize is I could have just add 520. This is actually correct, my table. You just keep adding $5.20 so you can get all the numbers. I was trying to plug, I had a 1270 here for my equation, and it wasn't working out. Like when I checked it in the answer key, it wasn't working out, and that's because they're kind of linear, these things. It's going to end up looking like a step function. I'll just give you a spoiler right here. See how my step function is a little bit linear though, and it's going to have a slightly steeper slope on the ones that are after 300 cubic feet. So then I backtracked and I did a little, you're not asked to do this, I probably shouldn't even show this, but I backtracked to find out what the equation was, and this equation actually does work, but it's not necessary to do this because all I had to do was realize that now I'm just going to add 520. So, and I just went down the table. There might be a faster way, but I need these numbers, so I just plugged them in. If I add 520 to 40, you can see that I'm going to get 4520. Keep adding 520, and just produced a table. And now I'm going to graph it because that's what they originally wanted me to do. My graph does not look very lovely. So I graphed hundreds of cubic feet of water on the x-axis, and then our price, like the cost per month, on the y-axis. So these are just dollar amounts here. And so if they don't use any water at all, then it still costs $12. What was it? $12.70. $12.70. So, but if they even use a single drop of water, it's going to be you're going to have to pay for the whole 100 cubic feet. So even if you don't use a whole 100 cubic feet, any fraction of 100 cubic feet is going to cost you. You're going to have to pay that $3. Was it $3.90? Okay, so this is how it ends up looking though, and that's just because, like, you know, anything after, you know, 100 cubic feet. I think I might have said 300 when I meant 100. Anyway, anything after 100, even if it's 101, you're going to have that little price jump, because they're not going to sell you. They're kind of like grouping. You have to buy it by the 100, if that makes any sense. So is this a function? So I tried. This is not a very beautiful graph. You can look at this graph. This is a nicer graph. The one that they have in the book. It's just that it's so small it's hard to see. So you're to make a graph, and is it a function? It is actually a function, because it passes the vertical line test. And what is the domain? Well, you can use any amount of, like, let's say I used 150 cubic feet of water. Well, I'm gonna have to jump up to, you know, I have to pay the same price as I would for 200 cubic feet of water, but I can use however much I want, but the y values are going to jump. The y values, it's a step function. So the range is actually going to just be these certain y values. There's no customers are going to pay anything that's not one of these values, because they're buying it by the 100. If the monthly service fee is decreased to $8.80, then the graph would actually just get shifted down. It would still kind of have the same shape. It would just, the whole thing would just come down by 250, because that's what 1270 minus 880 is. I hope that helped.